Wheeler.
Here.
Rodner.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Ms. Wheeler made the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ryan Cummins. With no discussion, we'll move into a vote. Madam Secretary?
Cummins.
Yes.
Wheeler.
Yes.
Rodner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you, Ms. Secretary. So we will move in. One thing, I put together this analysis of past Director of Schools contracts. One disclaimer that I want to add, I did not receive this data until mid to late last week and had not had a whole lot of time on it. And as you can imagine, going through 5 different contracts that span over 20 years is not a super easy thing. So I just want to add, I would encourage all of the members to do your independent research. I've gone back through, reviewed this countless times. I know we've all got a whole lot on our heads right now, so I'm not thinking nearly as clearly as I might. I'd like to have let this rest for a week or two and go back and revisit it. To the best of my knowledge, everything presented here is accurate and factual, but just a disclaimer to go back and kind of review everything. So I put together a little executive summary here at the top. This is just a comparative snapshot of where we have been at with past directors. You'll see to the left column, it involves the contracted individual. Another disclaimer, finance did not provide to me Director Fields' initial contract. For some reason, just her second. I have now got a copy of that, but by the time I got a copy of it, it was too late to include it in this. But most of us are familiar with Director Fields' original contract. So I didn't know how important that was, but we'll make sure that gets sent out just for your review. So from Director Blevins on, you can see that. The term is then listed there in number of years. You can see we've had quite a wide variation. The base salary is included there, and then I went through and adjusted that base salary for inflation. So you can see that below with the asterisk next to it. So Director Blevins in 2026 dollars would have been paid $149,000. So just wanted to share that. There's some information there about their without cause structure, you know, what the buyout looked like. To the right of it, the year in which that contract was executed, and then just some fun facts about the different features. For example, Director Martin had incentives for certain performance qualities, etc. Director Poston had a very short contract, etc. Any questions about this first page before we go on?
You said you did not have Jennifer's initial contract?
Correct. I just had her extension contract that the board executed in 2025.
How could we obtain a copy of that?
I got it today, so I will send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question about length of term. I thought they were something we could go past the terms of our board, like y'all got, we've got 2 more years on your old contract. I thought we couldn't offer a contract past that. Is that true or false?
I'm unaware of that unless state law has changed since we would have extended one to Director Martin back in 2009. That'd be a Dale question, just in case state law has
I think
changed.
it's what the state, it's a 4-year, you can do
Up to
no more than a 4-year
four,
contract.
yeah. And then I know that we do have to be in certain contract periods around elections.
Right,
Well,
and
just for
then you can't
example,
renew at a certain time.
Jennifer was put in March of 18. My election was August of 18, and they done a 4-year contract, which would have put it through even the next two-year cycle, you know. So I don't feel that for record.
Just, you know, I have fuzzy stuff up here too, so.
Good point. And one just personal thing I do want to say, I want to appreciate Chairman Miller for giving me the chance. I hope you all can see from the amount of work I put into this that I take this very seriously. Any further questions on the first page? And Director, if you have any questions, feel free to speak up as well.
I can just ask them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further questions about the first page? We'll move on. The second page, and you all did receive this in your emails this morning, but there's just some common themes across the contracts, things that have been shared. Framework, residency requirements have been a point of conversation. You'll see on page 3, and if at any point we need to stop, let me know. Page 3, this is my analysis of Director Blevins' contract, some strengths and weaknesses. Interestingly enough, she had some extra compensation in an annuity, a travel stipend for in-county travel on her personal vehicle. There's some interesting things about transfer clauses, you know, what the board has the authority under the contract to transfer. And one thing that I thought was really neat about hers, or I won't say neat, unique, I should say, was that if she resigned within the first 2 years, she owed back compensation for a new search. So I thought that was interesting. Next page, you'll see Director Martin's information, his base salary, all that type of stuff. Now, on these individual breakdowns, I did not include the adjustment for inflation, so you'll have to refer to page 1 for that. But again, probably what was most unique about Director Martin's was the KPI, the key performance indicators that were required to meet certain bonuses. Personally, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I'd never heard of that until I reviewed this contract, but I thought that was pretty neat. But he could get an extra almost $10,000 a year for hitting some key performance indicators. And that would be up to us if we wanted to include, et cetera, and if the interim director wanted to accept those terms. Going forward, Director Poston, guy who handed me my diploma, but some information, obviously his was fairly short, transitional role, et cetera. Going forward from that is Director Nodiford. One thing that was neat is his contract specified evaluation twice yearly. His without cause buyout was $50,000 and a 30-day severance period. His was fairly balanced in compared to some of the others.
Dr. Martin had valuation. You remember, Ms. Dale, he had a pitched fit because it wasn't good. I remember that one. We did evaluations on him.
Yeah, he had an annual evaluation, and in fact, as we continue, there'll be a suggestion that I have to maybe include in the contract what evaluation method that we want to use. So for example, if we want to use TSBAs under the contract with the new director, I think it would be fair to the new director for them to know up front how we're going to evaluate them without changing it midstream. Then again, you see Director Fields' extension contract. This one was basically set up for transition, so there's not a ton of information about that. And then on page 8, you will see what I put together, just a checklist of what I have called decision points. These are just different items that are kind of unique from each of the contracts in the past that we could compare and contrast for. So I tried to put it in a a la carte type menu so that we could discuss them line item by line item. And then it's pretty vague on that rubric. So in pages 9, 10, and 11, I included definitions.
Thank you, they're very clear.
Well, if you can tell, I'm a data nerd, so. And Bethany, since you guys are the only ones here, would you like to see this? I'll be glad to share a copy with you.
Sure.
Again, feel free to fact check me. Didn't have a whole lot of time to put together a whole lot of stuff, but if you guys are gonna come and be involved, might as well make sure you see what we're looking at too. I appreciate you all being here, by the way.
To you, sir.
It's okay, you'd rather be.
Well, I guess I'll start.
Yes, sir.
What I like. I like at least up to a 3-year deal.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of a full 100% buyout.
Okay.
I think that needs to be prorated.
I agree.
I do feel like, let's just say for instance, you begin in May, it wouldn't be fair to evaluate you to this TCAP that's being done this week. So you could be evaluated this time next year based on your performance from here to then on just your overall work performance. But your first true evaluation on 10 Ready should be when TCAPs are done next year, therefore the year after. It would be fair for her to have the evaluation of 10 Ready happening right now because she's not being in command.
Correct.
Correct.
And Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, just so, because we have so many different variables we can talk about, I want to make sure we try to attack one. Would you be okay, sir, if we tackled on, term length, contract type,
Yeah.
just kind of go through this list? I just don't want a world where we're all confused. And there's so many variables, you got 20 on there.
Right.
So if it's okay with everybody, let's talk about term length first. option C on that, and it's got a little point to the right where you can write in the selected that we decide on or that you personally like. Option C would be a 3-year, as Chairman Miller has proposed. Is there any discussion on that?
I like that.
I like a 3-year.
Okay, what do we do here? He has an opinion on it, didn't he? My district.
I think he may have wanted a 2-year, but I'll be honest with you, Mom.
It seems like that's what I remember him saying out of it, okay? Not more than.
I mean,
2
let's
years.
just, with everything, 3 years would be fair to let her have a chance
Yeah.
to.
Could I ask one question? At that contract would end in May, right? Is there some stipulation that I could have 1 month transition? And that is important for me because that actually gets my Tennessee teacher retirement in for me. It's the 1 month.
37 months?
Yeah. And I mean, it would not have to be as director that additional month, it could be whatever it would need to be, but I would like to get my 30, I would like to get my 5 years in Tennessee teacher retirement.
That makes sense.
So it would be 36 and then maybe
1 month
1 month
transition.
transition, and that would not have to be at director's pay necessarily.
That, or we could offer 30-month with a 6-month transition.
Okay,
If we decided not to extend it, or, if there wasn't mutual agreement towards the contract
I
extension.
just need the 37 months is because typically, we're kind of starting it in May at an odd time. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I'm fine.
I like the 36 months with a month extension, a month, transition.
Transition, okay.
And that checks the box. for me.
That checks that box for me. I
Sound-
know it does, I know it seems a little petty,
Not at
but
all. I mean, that's retirement.
that's my
That's-
retirement.
that's
Yeah,
what
that
everybody
is,
works for.
that's a retirement.
Sure.
My understanding under my retirement system that I'm under in Tennessee is, it has to be 5 years.
All right, so seems like we've got unanimous agreement on 36-month contract plus a 1-month transition. Let's go on to a contract type. Again, we've just seen different types. I think we're all in favor. Did we, looking at a standard contract, much like we did with Director Fields, are you all in favor of a performance-based contract? Performance? Okay. And that kind of lets us know where we can
Mr.
move
Ryder,
going forward.
what do you like on
I don't know.
that? Okay.
So just for clarity, a performance contract would include some stipulations of potential bonuses tied to success.
Like attendance, graduation.
Graduation, kind of what with Dr. Martin.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He sees.
Yep. So it seems like performance is where we're more oriented. And Director McCoy, if there's something where you're saying, pump the brakes, absolutely not, feel free to wave your hand. And, once we know the general shape of this, we can get in and paint the details, right? But I just want to get our heads wrapped around what we want this to look like. I mean, in my opinion, this is the most important decision that we make as a board. So I want to make sure we put a good amount of time into it to do it right. So performance. Anything else about the contract structure in general? For those of you following along, we're on page 8, just going kind of line item by line item. Let's move into base compensation. I included several options there and different brackets. Director Fields was in bracket number D, and obviously we could certainly go either outside of these brackets down or up. What would be the pleasure of the committee?
I think with her, I think you stay with D. I mean, she has a lot of credentials, experience. I don't know why, I don't think you go backwards.
No.
I'll stay with D.
D? So we're thinking 130, which is where Director Fields was, plus some bonuses. So again, if we look at Director Fields' compensation, adjusted for inflation, she was making about $135,000. Do we wanna say 130 plus some nice bonuses for performance?
For achieving them. Yeah.
And again, we can work on those as a committee. Director McCoy, is that the neighborhood you'd like to be in?
Well, I was hoping for closer to 135, to be honest, because when you look at the cost of inflation,
Yeah.
uh,
So you'd prefer 135 plus bonuses, or?
and maybe the bonuses not be as elaborate as they might would be.
Not as substantial.
Yes, yeah.
And my thought would be, if we did something like 130 or 135, and then basically, or if we did 130 and offered 5,000 just for meeting the performance she came in on, not going backwards, she gets $5,000. And then build it out from there. I'm not opposed to a pretty aggressive bonus structure, maybe 10, 15, 20,000. But again, what's the committee's?
If Director McCoy is good with 135 and less substantial bonuses, you know, like smaller, I think that's fine, because to your point, if we're doing 130 and you're talking 10, 15, 20,000, that's gonna exceed the bracket that we're in anyway. And that's not really what your desire is. 135 plus just kind of a standard bonus.
I mean,
I'm fine with that.
we can talk about those bonuses and what they might be, but,
Not to exceed what, 10,000, 5,000? What, I mean, what's the thoughts here? The bonus structure, because if we're at 135, then you're gonna be at the midpoint of that range. And so where do we wanna say, hey, we're gonna stop, we're gonna hit the brakes right here.
And 135 is the inflationary adjustment, right?
Yeah. For what Director Fields' extension was.
I think that's a reverse.
That's fair.
And
I
I
think that's fair.
I feel like constituents, I'm not sure that, you know, any constituent could reasonably get mad about us compensating the new director in like fashion to the former director. You know, not like you're coming in and we're giving you a $100,000 pay raise, right?
You're starting out where she ended.
Yeah.
And would like to look at like the performance metrics and what is obtainable, right? Because we wanna make sure
Yes,
that those
yeah,
things are,
yes.
that you can hit these numbers and that you can meet this criteria. So that you don't have bonuses that are kind of irrelevant, like you can't obtain them even if you try, right? Like we wanna
Right.
make sure that it's fair.
Smart goals.
Smart goals, I'm a big smart guy.
Adjustments. So this is if we want to include any automatic, raises. I don't think that any of the contracts or review had anything like that, but I just didn't know if we did or did not want to include some.
We did vote one time to give, did we not give Jennifer a raise once? Because I think I made the motion.
I thought everybody, teachers get them, that they got the raise too. Did she not get a raise then?
No, I don't think hers is
I
tied to
think
it.
so.
But I do remember one time on extension, we did give a raise, but it was a board decision.
So we want to keep that board discretion, option B.
I would say that.
Okay. Incentives, so I think the pleasure of the committee is bonuses with some metrics, right? And we can flesh those out, so I would ask that the committee members be prepared for our next meeting where we can put a pen to paper and hash out what those look like. Any extra compensation, again, Director Blevins had an annuity. If we're in the world where Interim Director McCoy is satisfied at our current compensation, I don't know that we need any extra comp.
Director?
The only thing I would like to ask compensation for, and that would just be for, right now, I'm on supervisor's pay. I would like compensation for this time at director's pay while I am performing as an interim, because I am on supervisor's pay.
Is that something we can discuss at the board meeting and retro that
Okay,
back to the effective date? Because that wouldn't affect like this
okay.
contract.
I didn't know if we just did that as a one-time on the first year or not.
I mean, I think we can skin the cat a couple of different ways. Certainly, we could offer an initial signing bonus that would compensate her for
Yeah.
the lack of income during the month as interim. I think compensation as interim is appropriate.
I do so.
Okay.
Especially with everything you're having to go through right now.
I was paid as an interim on the superintendent's pay scale, on Dr. Martin's, right from the beginning.
Okay,
Yeah. Correct.
so, interim bonus. Sarah?
And let me just say, you know, that night, I was so worried about the Perkins grant and E-plan and all of that. I didn't even think about all of this. It was, we cannot lose that Perkins money, we cannot lose that LEAP grant. And sometimes it takes a couple of days to get signers switched over in E-plan. So that was my big priority that night. And I think it was everybody's. I don't think we really were thinking about anything like that.
You've been doing the job. I can't imagine any reasonable person saying, no, you shouldn't get paid for doing the job.
Well, thank you.
And you've been doing a fine job.
Well, thank you.
Anything else for compensation? All right, let's move on to termination. Full payout, fixed buyout, sliding capped. My thought is maybe 6 months of comp.
I like prorated,
Prorated, how would you like to skew that proration? What's your proposal?
just as the duration of, so if it were based off the term.
So you want a full, so say we decide to let go Director McCoy without cause, and she has a year left on her contract. You want that prorated and she would get her whole 135?
I don't think we would let her go without cause probably, but, I'm open to other suggestions.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I understand you. I'm not opposed to something. I think a full buyout is gonna be hard. You know, I know a lot of people did not like that with Director Fields.
Constrains your.
I will say that, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't think that a full buyout is really appropriate. So that's not something I'm asking for, is a full 100% buyout. I would not ask for that. I've agreed to, you know, prorated, and I just think that, I don't think that's the right thing, for me to ask for 100%.
And we could, you know, we've had it as low as $50,000. We could do 6 months of comp, 9 months of compensation. You know, again, say Director McCoy, we're unsatisfied, you know, within 6 months and decide to terminate without cause, you know,
I like 6 months.
6 months.
Like 6 months.
I'm good with that.
Notice period. I would think we would give at least 30 days.
Yeah, I think that's required. That required, Ken? If you wanna terminate, you have to give notice.
We for sure have to get notice. I think we can do as low as 10 days, but I don't think that's acceptable.
So 30.
So theoretically, if we terminated for cause, it would be, you know, a 30-day notice and then 6 months of comp after that. So essentially 7 months of comp from when we make the decision. Termination for cause. What's the thoughts about that? So that would include, you know, standard would just be pretty strict, misconduct, neglect, you know, incompetence. Expanded, how I defined that was, you know, policy violations, performance failures. You know, director, if we lose 50% of our students, you're automatically gone. Strict would give us a whole lot more power, strict is what I'm saying, or custom. I know there's a really broad bands, but I think typically we've just had a standard for cause. I don't know that we've extended a director of schools contract that I'm aware of that we could terminate for cause because of lack of performance. But we could certainly explore that if the board wanted to.
Out of the previous ones, how many were standard?
I think every one of them.
I'm good with standard.
I would classify all the others as standard.
I'm good with standard.
I'm good with
Yep.
standard.
Resignation. So, what do we want to do if she resigns? Can we let her resign at any time? Does she need to give us a notice? Is there a penalty? You know, if she resigns, do we not only, obviously, we would not compensate her past her resignation period, but do we penalize her? My thought is if resignation, I liked that if you resign within the 2 years, you owe back the money to TSBA.
You mean for the, is that for the surge?
Yeah, 15,000.
15,000.
So that's my thought. If you can't, don't stick around, if you resign within 2 years, and of course, if there was some type of resignation for health or, you know, something, of course,
I would like for that clause to be in there if it was.
health related.
Yeah, that non-funded.
Do we all think 2 years and a waiver for health?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, how often do we, any other things about termination and risk? How often, let's move into evaluation and accountability. How often would we like to evaluate? Annually, semi-annually, quarterly? I like annually myself.
I do too.
I would say.
But I would time it to when it's after the data comes out.
Yeah.
You know, don't have it before, don't, you need to have it after the fact. That way you can go back and evaluate that.
What's your thoughts, Director? Annual?
Yeah, I would prefer annual. I'm just thinking, the first year, we probably wouldn't have results back, but we've already discussed that.
It
But
would-
we
it
could
would
use
give us-
other
We have in the
information.
past done evaluation without the TIP rating, so it would be that metric without the TCAP
Yeah.
for you on the first time.
Okay.
And then the second year,
It would be my
that would be
TCAP.
there for evaluation.
Any further comment? All right, the metric, this is something I'm really passionate about. I do think that we need to commit, I would like to see us commit to using TSBA as the evaluation.
I agree.
And I would also suggest a supermajority to undo it.
Okay,
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said? I couldn't hear you.
In the past, we've always used little form, big form, TSBA. The TSBA form is more thorough. It's a rubric. You have to answer to what the rubric, you know, when you look at, especially the data.
And you know, I mean, I know what I'm being evaluated on because it's down by
Exactly.
rubric.
And it's thorough. That's the other one important things we do is that. So I would just like, that needs to be in stone, that's what we're gonna do.
Agreed.
And it's for you, this contract, it's gonna be that.
And, I mean, we know going into it.
Yeah.
Clearly defined expectations.
another question, do we want to add a contractual requirement where board members have to publicly evaluate? That's something that I would like to see. I've never liked when we can submit something and not put our names to it, but what's the pleasure of the committee?
I think Dale is, I don't know that we're required to do that.
We're not, that's why I said contractually, do we want, when we enter in, I just think, Director, if I'm gonna give you a bad grade, you have a right to know that I'm the one giving you the bad grade. And my constituents deserve to know.
I like the transparency, but that would be like I would have that conversation.
For sure.
you know. But with that said, I would like to hear from our other board members.
We wanna put a pin in that? What would this, so this committee does not wanna take action on if we commit to signing our names to it?
I think it ought to be signed. And I think everyone should turn one in. I think we've had that problem too.
Yeah. But now there's been some years that hasn't.
I mean, I think we need to contractually require that every board member does it, and contractually require that our names are on it. If not, we're in risk of breach of contract between the Board of Education and the Director of Schools. But I'm just one vote here.
Yeah.
Probably, let's ask Bill about that.
Yeah.
If
See
he's,
what-
if
see
he,
what we're allowed to
if
do.
it's legit with him, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
So if he's good with it, this whole committee's good with it.
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, that's more than fair.
That's-
Guys, we're tearing through this like nobody's business. I like it. Evaluation criteria, we don't really need to worry about that since we're gonna use TSBA's. So just strike that. That was more if we decided to do our own. Any more questions about evaluation and accountability? Move into board authority. So the first one there is the transfer clause. Do we want to add a transfer clause that we can assign the director to another role? Do we want to limit that where we can only do it under specific conditions, no transfer allowed, or something custom? And we have had a role, director of schools contract, I believe it was Director Poston, where he could be transferred at either the same or reduced compensation. I think we should allow a transfer at the compensation. I don't think it would be fair to say, yep, Director McCoy, we're transferring you to be an elementary school teacher. You know, if we're gonna transfer Director McCoy, she's
Dr.
always.
Blevins is board may transfer to another position, compensation benefits remain in force for the contract duration.
There we go.
You like that language?
I do.
So we are good with allowable like Blevins.
Yeah.
This was in one of the contracts just about residency. I do think we should contractually require the director of schools to live in the county.
Now, let me ask you this. I actually have an apartment
Sure.
here that I spend the weeks at, some weekends, not all. Have been looking for a house, but, does that mean I have to own a home or property, or just show my rental agreement?
Yeah, I think just residency is defined as, you know, same thing as any of our residency requirements for, you know, your primary residence has to be there. So if you spend 80% of your time here and 20% of the time in Alaska, you know, that's, I think the intention of this is your residency requirements follows the same as the elected officials, in which you would have to.
And I prefer to do that because Tennessee does not have income tax.
Yeah, and you're, you know.
I mean, it's a benefit for me.
Your
It's a
driver's
benefit for me
license.
to have my residency here.
In the spirit of it, I think would certainly be, you know, we don't want you to rent a shoebox here and have a mansion in Florida, right?
What you're doing is probably okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
but do we even want to include a residency requirement? I think we're all held to a residency requirement, I like it, but
I don't mind that. I don't see how I could be a director in this school district and not have some sort of residency here. I mean, I'd be right next to the board if I could, but, I'm as close to it just about as you can get without,
literally.
literally.
But no, like, right now, you have a mailing address in district.
I do have one, I do have it, but I have the Kentucky address on everything. Now, my son, he actually does use the Tennessee one, but that was because when I first started, it took me about 3 months to find an apartment. It took a little while. It's not as easy as people think to just find somewhere to live. So I drove it for 3 months, and, but now I do. And so I can change that with Mandy, that's not a problem. I had planned on doing that anyway. Because, again, the benefits of living here are much better than the other.
All right, great. Outside work. Do we want to allow the director to do outside work outside? You know, for compensation to consult on something, for example. I'm personally opposed to it, but
I do not have a problem with not working outside at all. I mean, that's not an issue for me at all,
okay, so option D, no outside work.
no.
Benefits. Do we want to offer the director just the standard benefits that we have?
I think all the memberships that this field's have, will just, you know, TOS and all them conferences and all that would go in as well. Whatever she's been getting, as far as memberships.
Oh, okay, and I don't know. what
Rotary,
those-
that was one of the Rotary, because we have to pay for it. Because they need to be part of the community.
Okay, so we're good on that front?
Now, would my health benefits and all of that stay the same?
Yes. So standard. Life insurance, I think typically we've offered $100,000. Do we want to change any more of that?
Let's hope we don't ever have to pay.
Yeah. And memberships, we want to continue to cover that. So just a quick recap on what we have selected, and I had somebody already message me with concerns about a potential bonus or something like that. Let me be clear, I think the pleasure of this committee is, if Director McCoy was to have all of our schools as A-rated schools, you know, we never have a day where a student skips school at all in our county, you know, if we were able to just do these incredible things as a district, I think we're advocating for a bonus, right? You know, and some type of tiered bonus structure. We'll have to flesh out what those look like or what those seem like. I guess somebody texted me and said, well, you guys are in a budget deficit, you're talking about a bonus? Well, yeah, I'd be glad to give the director $5,000 if she could make our budget deficit go away.
Because that, you know, student performance, student membership, that it does impact our funding.
Absolutely.
The better we perform, the better our membership, the more piece of funding we get, and state funding, other state funding.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm just gonna recap all of this, all of these decision points, to just make sure that we're all, because I think we're all unanimous on all of these as a committee. And just for anybody watching, or anybody curious, this will go from this committee, I'm actually doing another committee meeting to talk about some of the more nitty gritty of it, and then this will be presented to the entire board for approval.
Now, will I get a chance to see that before it goes to the board? Because I would just like to look over that, maybe have an attorney look over that for me, just to make sure there's nothing in there that.
We should have that wrapped up.
Yeah, because I imagine what we'll do is I'll type a synopsis of all this, make sure that nobody has any objection to it, and then we'll send it to Dale to translate to legalese, right? So just to go through and cover all this. So what the committee would like to see included in the contract with the interim director of schools as she accepts the full-time role is the contract structure, 36-month with a 1-month transition, getting her to 37, a performance-based contract type that would link possible additional compensation to performance. So again, director, if you're able to bring back the 200 students we've lost this year and fix our budget deficit where we never have to worry about cutting a teacher job again,
That'd be nice.
we might give you enough money to go to Ruth's Chris for a night, okay?
There you
So,
I
you
might
know.
treat everybody here too with that ball.
Yeah, there we go. Base salary is going to equal what Director of Fields' base salary equaled when adjusted for inflation. We are going to offer adjustments to that at the board's discretion, with no intentions of doing that, but that is board discretion if it should. Metrics would decide any incentives. The extra compensation would be nothing other than just the comp or key metrics. Termination in a without cause situation, the director would be entitled to 6 months of compensation, which just for the record is significantly less than the board entered into with our prior director. The notice period would be 30 days. We would have a standard for-cause termination. Resignation would be a penalty anytime within the first 2 years of $15,000. If the director was to resign, that would reimburse the community and the taxpayers for the cost of a new TSBA search. There would be a waiver included in there for issues with health, which hopefully we never have to execute. There will be an annual evaluation after data is received with a waiver for data in the first year, since those aren't your numbers. And then we will use the TSBA evaluation tool that can only be removed or changed with a supermajority of the board. We will speak to Dale about if board members are allowed to contractually be required to sign their names to those and to submit one, and if so, this board is in favor of that in the effort of transparency. The transfer clause will follow what I'll call the Blevins language. Residency, we do require the director to be a Campbell County resident in the district. Outside work will be prohibited. We will offer a standard benefits package. We will offer standard life insurance and standard memberships covered as we covered with Director Fields.
Can we get that like in a summary email to us?
I'll handle that for you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
When we talk about benefits, you know, as supervisors, we're given so many sick days, so many, vacation days, all of that. That would be the same, when you say standard?
Correct.
You're saying that would be the same as it is for the supervisor? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. questions, comments, concerns? Well, folks, this committee, and the committee does represent every district in Campbell County, one member from every district in Campbell County. Thank you all for serving. We are in unanimous agreement on the terms of the contract, so that is wonderful in such a difficult time that we can be unanimous on something. Any closing comments?
Will you schedule the next one?
I will. When would you guys, let's go ahead and put that. I'll probably just need 24 hours or so, but we'll need to get with Dale.
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday, the 30th of April.
Can you do that? Can you do that?
Do you want to do 5 or 5:30? 5:30 good with everybody? Okay.
Okay, and what was the date on that?
The 30th of April. So that gives us a week and a day. What I will do is I will get this summarized for the board just as quickly as possible. I'll get it to Gail. Gail will send it out. If there's any additions, deletions, corrections, anything like that, let us know. That way we can put it on the agenda to talk about next Thursday. Hopefully that will give Dale time to get all this finalized. Can't imagine it's going to be very lengthy. These have been, 5, 6, 7 pages in the past. So, any comments, Mr. Cummings? Mr. Miller? Ms. Wheeler? Ms. Ryder? Entertain a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Ms. Wheeler. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.